Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of BellyUpSports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at RighteousFelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
I mentioned it as my closing thoughts for last episode was the NFL draft, and I mean, I think the NFL draft definitely has like a very interesting setup where obviously they announce the players and it's really cool and I like it. I don't think that there's any other sport, especially I think it's only in America that does this, but that has like this type of event where because I'll be honest with you, man, NBA probably not as exciting as the NFL does it. Maybe even the NHL. And at the bottom of that list is the Major League Super Draft. Major League Soccer's Super Draft. I'll look, I'm not, this isn't me like dogging on college soccer by any means, because I'm not going to do that, especially now that I have gained a lot of understanding of how the importance of what college soccer brings to the table. I think when I interviewed Majib, he explained physicality, and this is an important thing. And I think especially when you're talking about the MLS, that's a pretty important skill to learn, especially if you're going to play in the MLS, especially if you're going to play in CONCACAF. So I think college soccer has its value, and I'm not trying to take that away. My only thing is that I just don't know if there's a draft is essentially the solution to like get that connection, to create that pathway for soccer players. Now, I mean, obviously, if you're not a big American soccer knowledgeable person, most people know like at least the proper pathway, I guess you can say, is by playing in the academies, growing, developing throughout the academy, graduate from the academy, and then hopefully by the time you're out of the academy, you are playing professionally. At what level, it's up in the air. But that's where most people are familiar with. Here in America, obviously, college sports is very prevalent. And that's just in general, whether you're talking about American football, baseball, basketball, and even soccer. But what I think is different of the other leagues versus the MLS is that MLS has another pathway in the U.S. And I want to specify in the U.S. Because the MLS does offer the academies, and the academies, and of course there's USL. So there's other avenues where MLS can go and get players, and of course the transfer transferring players out from other leagues as well. But beside that, there is no other league that has a different pathway. Most NBA, NFL, MLB, the pathway is very set in stone that you play your sport, and then you enter the draft. Now, baseball is probably a little bit more different because you do have international scouting and international science, but obviously you still draft prospects from like international programs. But I understand also that international signing players from Cuba and the DR and not Puerto Rico, because I believe Puerto Rico gets drafted a lot too, but like I guess not non-US territories. There's still options there. But I think with the MLS, I think what other leagues have that the MLS don't is that the pathway is going through college first. Even like in basketball, where the college pathway, you only have to play one season of college basketball and then enter the draft, which is one things that we have, like these one and dones, which I mean some people have not necessarily liked the one and done thing, because it's like, if these kids were good enough to go into the NBA, Why don't we just let them go right out of high school? So, I mean, similar to like, you know, LeBron James and Kobe Bryant, you know. But but I think aside from that though, I think you know, and I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away because you know in basketball, obviously now you have AAU, which has now been a big thing, but that is more of another scouting opportunity for college programs because in the end of it all, you still have to play some college basketball in order to get into the NBA. So the pathway is still there where you go from high school or club. I feel like that's a good in between where there's high school and club ball. Then you go to college, you know, play whatever to your one now you're draft eligible, and then you go pro. And I think it's a very simple. The path is the same in throughout the major sports here in the U.S. When I say major sports, I'm talking about American football, baseball, basketball, like those sports. NHL, I can't tell you anything about hockey in the United States, so I'm not going to even try to explain that because I have no idea. But as far as those three sports, the pathway is clear. Whereas you play, you play to get your attention from a college. The college then gives you a scholarship. You then play for that college. Obviously, there's the transfer transfer portal. I know there's a transfer portal. I'm not going to try to touch that with a 10-foot pole either. But you play your college period, right? And then you become eligible for the draft. You go into the draft, and then you go pro. And then hopefully you're able to showcase yourself enough to gain a career in that sport. Whereas in soccer, you have academies, which has now become more of an emphasis now. I think with the MLS, now that you have the structure with MLS Next, and even have that MLS Next Pro as the next step for your development, as a soccer player. But still, college soccer is still an option. I think a very good option too, especially for those guys that maybe aren't fully there yet on their skill set to get into maybe that MLS Next Pro setting or even get to the MLS. Maybe like go to play college, and get stronger. Like I said with Majib, he mentioned that he needed to work on his physicality. He worked on his physicality, got physical, and now he's playing professionally. And so I think that college soccer does have its value. Obviously, the market, not the market, the pool of college soccer teams are very small in my opinion. I don't know. Someone can disagree with me on that one, but so obviously it's very limited. And so that's one of the gripes that I do have with the MLS Super Draft is because of the fact that your talent pool it is what it is. Like it's not like every college has a soccer team, a men's soccer team. Not every and I think that's also my argument for why women's soccer is so well done here in the U.S. is because you have so many college programs, so you have a larger talent pool, so you're getting a larger size of players to look and analyze, and to decide whether or not you're going to bring them on with the U.S. program. And I mean, a lot of these players also play for other national teams as well. So I don't want to just say that college soccer is only benefiting U.S. soccer because I think it's actually benefited other countries as well. And I mean, even same thing for men's soccer as well. I believe there's a lot of international players that also play in men's soccer and in college men's soccer. But coming back into this though, um, I just have never been a fan of the MLS draft. Especially because I feel like a lot of the draft picks don't necessarily like play right away. In football and basketball, and baseball. Well, maybe not baseball, but in NFL and basketball, we're seeing more and more of these guys that are getting drafted, especially very early draft picks. Like we're talking about like top 10 draft picks that, or if you're in the NFL first round picks, in the NBA, I would say like the top 10 picks. These guys are more than likely going to become instant starters. Like these guys are you're drafting these guys because they're more often than not the top of your talent pool. So these guys are, and especially if you're drafting super early, your teams tend to not be very well. So these guys are supposed to be impact players, guys that are going to come right in and instantly improve your team. And in MLS, that doesn't seem to be the case. There are some cases that have shown that some of these players do in fact start right away, but those are very small samples. And so for me, the only thing I would say is I think the MLS, if they want to continue as they continue to grow, I think you move away from the MLS draft. I still think you do the combine. I still think you do the whole process, especially when a lot of players are now eligible to. And I mean, obviously, that to me is kind of an interesting follow up question, I guess, to my theory, but but kind of sticking to what I was gonna say. I think MLS should move away from the MLS draft, still have the combine, still have, where they invite all these, these college athletes come on and have them do this huge, this combine. They do the exercises, they do the 11v11s, all that jazz, and obviously all the MLS teams, scouting teams, come and watch the players, see how they're working, and and instead of doing a draft, I think that MLS should just allow for teams to go after the players that they want. So offer them contracts. So not necessarily like, because then now we're just going after who we want, and whoever the player ends up. And then also this gives freedom, more decision for the player. Now this guy can decide, is this a good fit for me, or is this team a better fit? So I think that one, it gives more power to the players, which I'm all for that. But it also, it means that now these MLS teams that, like, just because you have the earlier pick, just because you don't have that pick that the team's gonna have, you can still have a shot at getting that player. Because at the end of the day, it's all about getting the best players that fits your team and fits your style. And I think that that's what we should be doing more so. So while I think college soccer is still a great resource to go get players, especially with the salary cap, and with that as an issue, or depending on how you view the salary cap. But I think if you have an open combine, allow the MLS teams to go after the players that they want to go after. Um, I think it'll be a better resource, because, like, even then, the only reason why I mentioned is because kind of using Majib as an example again. Majib played college soccer, played, I believe, 4 years in college soccer, and the Dynamo just signed him back. And I actually recently, I believe, Sargent, another player that went through the Dynamo Academy, he played college soccer and now is back with the Dynamo and signed with the team. So like, I think that it would even be greater is MLS puts an initiative on it, like, hey, I don't know what would need to be done, but I think a good initiative would be, hey, if you guys sign some college athletes, we'll do something for you. We free up this amount of space on your side. I don't know. I'm just saying that, like, we need a because, like, I think the problem with the MLS draft, at least in my head, is a lot of these players don't necessarily play with the teams they get drafted by. And I think prime example is the kicker for the Dallas Cowboys. The dude was a draft pick. He was drafted in the MLS Super Draft. It didn't pan out for him, and now he's probably one of the best kickers in the NFL's history right now, potentially. Now let's not go too crazy, but it happens, right? So why don't we? And I'm not saying that, oh, if we had this open combine, maybe somebody would. No, I'm not saying that either. But I'm just saying, like, let's get rid of the draft. Let's still, like, put an emphasis on scouting college athletes, because I do think that there is a benefit to college soccer. More now that I understand college soccer a little bit more, I understand that there is an importance to it because of the physicality, and I think that does help out for the MLS, especially when you're competing in CONCACAF, because CONCACAF is just a physical league. It's a physical confederation, and so I think that helps. And that, I just need to see an initiative where these college athletes are playing, though, and that's the thing that I think, to me, is very important, especially when we're talking about letting the players choose where they go, because I want them to go to a place where they're going to play, a place where they're going to get minutes and opportunities, even if it's just an MLS Next Pro contract. But, give them the options. And I would even open up the combine to not only MLS teams, but also to the USL. like the USL can also go in there and find players, not having to look as like, oh, look at this former MLS player now playing with the USL team, and kind of making it look like USL can't get their own players. And I'm not, there's a whole issue going on with that with MLS and USL right now, but I'm just saying, like, I think that there's better ways and better options to go about with when it comes to the MLS, when it comes to acquiring players, because I think what MLS has versus the other leagues is that they don't have multiple pathways to come to the MLS. And so whereas each other league, NBA, NFL, MLB, there's a clear pathway and to get to where you want to go. And I think MLS is very unique to it. And that's the reason why I think an MLS draft is just not like the end all be all solution. I think it's a great option. I think the real solution is developing your players through your academy. But once again, I think that there is something that college soccer offers that MLS academies can't offer, and that is improving physicality. And I think that there's kids in the academies that maybe are very good, but they're just missing that one thing, and college soccer can help them develop more. And then who knows? They come back, they're a better player and could be more beneficial to any MLS team that sees them to be fit for their team. So that's just my thoughts about it.